Welcome to episode 3 of Project FurtHER. I'm April Ulmer. Project FurtHER is a resource for the families of girls in youth soccer who are looking to play soccer at the very highest of levels. I'm in the studio today with my amazing producer, of course, Lo Ballard.
Hey.
And we have a very special guest with us today, Quentin Walker. Hey, Quentin.
Hey, how are you?
How are you today?
I'm doing fine.
So just to tell you a little bit of background about Quentin and I have known each other for a very, very long time. We reconnected here on the coast when he was a coach, actually, for our youngest daughter, London, the 13-year-old, who has aspirations to play at the college level and actually beyond, right?
Absolutely.
So before we get started, let's talk about your background a little bit. Kind of tell us who you are, what you do, what do you know about soccer?
Well, like you said, I'm Quentin Walker. I started playing when I was 2 in Jackson, Mississippi for CJSO. It was a small, very small club back then. It's no longer around. It was a very urban club that, competed against the bigger clubs, didn't have the money or the backing like, most clubs these days have.
Right.
But we stuck together and we made sure that we got all the things that we needed to get. I went to play academy in Birmingham for Busa my senior year, and then I went to Lipscomb University. After Lipscomb University, I transferred to a junior college called Tyler Junior College, who was predominant, just powerhouse junior college that wins national championships after national championships. I got a little homesick. I think that happens to a lot of Mississippi kids where they get homesick. And I transferred to Mississippi Gulf Coast, finished off at Mississippi College. I know that's a mouthful of schools. Then after Mississippi College, I went and played professional in Brazil.
Okay. Amazing. So, yeah, I mean, and you can see he's like so young, but he's like done so much in soccer, which is why, understandably, just knowing that he's such an amazing person, plus he has this incredible resume was one of the reasons why I sought him out when we needed help with London. And so kind of diving into that a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So if you remember, London, she was fairly young. You remember she was here, she was playing
Absolutely.
select. And so this is, one of our previous episodes, we kind of talked a little bit about development and about what parents need to think about when it comes to figuring out whether or not their child is developing. And Lo, you touched on a good point earlier when you were talking about there's a difference between playing and developing, right? You can play, you can have a good game, or at least, people think it's a good game. You're scoring goals, you won the game, you won the tournament, whatever. But you not be developing, especially if you're a child who, or family with a child who is interested in playing at higher levels of soccer, right?
Absolutely.
So we said one of the first things that parents and families need to be aware of is you have to know what you don't know, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so one of the things with us, I'd said previously, is, we didn't come from a soccer background, right? So I'm old, and when I was young, soccer wasn't really even a thing. So my husband and I didn't know much about soccer. It just seemed like London was doing well, right? She was playing, she was moving fast, she was scoring goals, she was the striker. But the whole strategy was get the ball to London, and she'd take it and run real fast as she could, and score, right?
Yes.
Right. And so I remember that the first time you trained with her, because, over time, a couple people kind of mentioned that, she's not quite getting coached right. They didn't really tell me what that meant, but, that's not really soccer. And I was like, okay, well, let me reach out to somebody that I trust, that I know, and maybe get her a little bit of extra training, right?
Absolutely.
And some of this was after being told no by the team in the club. Well, can we do this? Well, can she do that? No, we can't do that. She can't play up. She can't. So I had to sort of step outside of that and say, well, let me get some outside help, which is when I contacted you, right? And I remember the first time she trained with you, you were like, she's good, right? Mm-hmm. She's got something. She's good. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I ever even told you this when you were asking me to come, if she could train, do private sessions with me. I went and watched her play a couple games before I trained her.
Okay.
It's just what I do. I like to see what they do in game situations and what are the things that I see that they need to work on. I guess being a college coach, you kind of can see exactly these are the things that they're failing at in games over and over and over again, or these are the things that they're doing well. Can we make them great at? So I think the first time I trained her, immediately you could see that she wanted to get better. She's quiet. She's a very quiet girl,
right.
Very shy, and so it took her a little bit of time to warm up. So I had to do things and interact with her to make sure that, hey, it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
That's all a part of getting better. And then after we talked, and I was like, she has something, but I didn't share, like, we're going to have to push her quickly.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, I didn't know that, but that's amazing. So I remember sort of being encouraged and feeling like, okay, we're in the right hands. We got, and so trained a little bit, and then of course, the difficulty always comes in with schedules and scheduling, and trying to navigate work, and the girls, and they're going two different directions, and then you working, and so trying to make that work. And so long story short, we ended up sort of separating for a little bit, right, as we kind of went back to our day jobs and different things like that.
Yeah.
And then some time passed, and we had tried some things in between, and Lo and I had talked about that before, and kind of came back around to you,
Yep.
right? And it might have been like summer or something
Yeah,
like
it
that,
was summertime where
right.
my schedule came
Right,
a little bit
right. And
not
we're like,
busy.
okay, so we got to get back, and it was the off season, right?
Yep.
So, soccer's over. Okay,
Yep.
let's use this summer to try to, get some work in.
Yep.
And then you trained with her, right? And you
Yeah.
remember that?
Yep.
Like, yeah. And then you were like,
Hey, yeah, we started, what was it, like twice a week we started
Yeah,
going for
something
a
like
little
that.
bit.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Maybe for a couple of weeks, and I think after every session, you would check in and say,
Yeah.
how is she doing? And I would just say, she's doing fine, we need to work on this. After every session, how's she doing? She's doing fine, we need to work on this. And then after probably like 3 weeks of working with her,
Right.
you could see that she was getting better. But immediately I had to tell you,
Right.
Because how
Right.
we are and how
Right,
we've known
right,
each other for
right,
a while,
right.
respected, what she was doing and the time and effort that she was putting in, and I had to tell you that, hey, I think she's a little behind.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Exactly. And I always, and I've told you this before, right? Well, I always credit you so much for being the person who sort of said that, right? Because to tell a parent that can't be easy,
Yeah.
right? To be like, especially when you know me, we've known each other for a long time, and my motto is whatever you're doing is worth doing well, right? And so that when we're in something, we're in it. So we're in it, we're working hard, and then to be like, yeah, I know you've been working, we've been together for a few weeks. I know you've been looking for other opportunities for her and trying to get her better, but we're kind of we're here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we just had a heart to heart about it, like
I think I guess the important part is you have to understand that, one, the parent wants it. That's great and dandy,
Right.
but the player has to want it.
Right.
So I had to see that London wanted to get better, and that's not going to come after 4 sessions, 5
Right.
sessions. You can kind of pretend as a kid like, hey, I want to be out here, but when it's hot, when I'm actually kind of pushing you to get better, we're going over something that's very detailed and meticulous over and over and over again. What are your cues?
Right.
Are you getting frustrated? Are you saying, hey, can we stop for a second? Or are you saying, hey, let's keep going. Hey,
Right.
do you want one more? Yeah, I want 2 more.
Right.
And that was the things that she was doing. So I
Right.
was like, okay, I can have the conversation of, I think she's behind. Here's what I feel
Right.
you should do or can do. And just be honest with me.
Yeah. And like I said, I appreciated that so much. And we were one of our previous episodes, we were talking about sort of our tribe, right? And we talked about you, for example. We talked about sort of that role that you have because, you're the person that I go to that I trust when I say, hey, what do you think? And it's more than just, and Lo had actually asked a question about how do you navigate that? Like having people in your circle where, they fill different roles. And so one of the things that I said was, you have to have somebody that you trust, somebody that you trust, not just their judgment, but you trust them to be square with you, right?
Absolutely.
And to tell you what you don't want to hear, right? Because for me, I was like, okay, what does that mean? When you said, I was like, okay, what is it? What do we have to do? What do we have to do today? And you're like, well, so don't you guys, it's going to be, and I remember you saying, you're like, yeah, we can get her there, but man, we're gonna have to hunker down this summer. Like we're gonna have to hit it hard just to get her where she should be. It's like in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we're doing this to get her to a higher level, right, than everybody else. And so then to find out like she's not even where she should be, right?
Well,
and so
also, I want to be honest of she was where she should be, where she's at.
Okay.
But when you think broader picture
Right,
and
right.
where she wants to go or where she's saying that she wants to go,
Right. Then
there's different players, there's different requirements of those players,
Right.
different settings and different things that they can reach and touch that maybe you can't hear.
Right. Yeah. And that's also another valuable point we also talked about is, parents have to know what they don't know. right? They have to know what they don't know. And I think that's the first step, because that's part of the whole education process, right? If you have goals for your child, if your child has goals for themselves and you're committed as a parent to try to help them get there, then you have to sort of take a real accounting of, okay, where am I in this? Like, do I need to reach out to people who know more and who can help guide us, right? And so then, of course, you helped us look for other options. One of them didn't work out just because we had a family situation.
Yeah.
But I always credit you as the coach who like lit the fire, because at that point I knew what we had to do. We had to find opportunities. We had to create those opportunities for her. And that kind of brings us back to sort of where we live here, right?
Yeah.
And the sort of lack of opportunities that we can just reach out and touch,
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of what sort of led us on our journey, and also what ultimately led us to create Project FurtHER, right?
Yeah. So it's amazing.
Well,
It's amazing.
we're excited. We're excited about doing great things for girls in the sport, especially in this region, right? And especially with people like you who've been so committed for so long to elevating the sport, especially here where we live, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about development, right?
Okay.
Because that's one of the things that you sort of had to teach me, and one of the things that I've had to learn, right? That development is what's important, because it's also, I think, a difference in perspective, right?
Yes.
Because when she was playing select, when was playing all those years, like I said, she was scoring goals. They may win tournaments, but we were playing the same teams. We were going to the same tournaments, right? And then once we started to learn what better looked like, what was expected, then we were like, we're not really doing much, right? And so that's when sort of I started to learn about development, right? And how that's the most important thing. And now we say, a saying in my household and with London is win, lose, or draw. The question is, are you getting better? Are you having fun?
No,
And
yeah.
are you getting better,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what development's all about, right? So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about sort of development? Because there's parents, especially here, that probably don't know exactly what that looks like and what that means necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you talk to different coaches or different people, you're going to get a different answer. But I think the common answer is, are they creative, and are they able to be creative? Scoring goals and doing it with ease like she was doing was great. And like you said, it was against the same teams over and over. So you have to think about when she goes and plays the bigger clubs, bigger states, is she still having that success? So when you think about development, it's how's your first touch? How's your body shape when you receive the ball? Are you checking your shoulder? When you have pressure on you, can you play it back in one touch? Instead of taking 3 touches, now the defender can just poke the ball away. It's very intricate, especially for her if she's playing striker, if she's playing winger, the space and how can she create her own space to be effective. A lot of people think that you can just go out there and play and you're going to be successful off of raw talent, which some people are. But I think it's important that you have to hone in on the little details to be successful.
Right.
If you're losing games, I always say if you're losing games, it's okay. I think it's actually great because when you're losing games, then you can go back and view what you did wrong and what you can get better. And it may not always be what you did wrong.
Right.
It's what you can get better at.
Right.
So for me, I like losing some games and situations. Obviously not all.
Right.
We all want to win games.
We love winning.
But I like losing games where you feel you should have won, but you lost because of little details of how you receive the ball, the pressure. If they're pressing you, are they checking down at a certain angle? Is your teammates checking down? Are they telling you? I just think a lot of people don't focus on those details. They just go out and in their training sessions, we're going to play 4v4. All right, winner does this. But in that 4v4, what are your coaching points? What is the player paying attention to? Hey, are we making every passing angle great? Are we receiving on our back foot every single time so we can make the next pass easier? Are we on the same playing lines, even in a small box with 4v4? You have to make sure that you're understanding those things so when you get into the big game and game situations, you're being successful because you've already done it over and over and over again.
Right, right. I think those are great points. I really do. And I think that those are the things that sometimes are missing is those details, right? And just repetition and really focusing on those details. Because even with my child, one of the things I like to say is even as London has, as she's transferred clubs and things like that, there was like a scrimmage that she did, Coach Q came out and watched her, he's just like, I'll come and just see what she's doing. So we talked about having people who in your life and in your circle who are engaged. And so I want to thank you for that. Just always being engaged. Absolutely. And always, but I just remember every time that you are exposed to something with London, whether it's a game, whether it's a play, whether it's whatever, it's like, I love the fact that you will come back with little tips. Like you'll say, that was great, but I want to challenge her to do this thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that really, I think, sums up what development is all about, right? It's about making sure that all those little details, that the kids are focusing on those. Mm-hmm. And then, and I've seen this, like I said, in my own girl, she goes out there and she has fun, and now it's second nature. Yeah. She just does it, right? I mean, her first touch is great because she's done it so much, and she knows, she's been taught the importance of it. So now she can be a better player, and now she can focus on being more creative because she doesn't have to work so much on the mechanics of things. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And then always also trying to continually look for ways to further develop, right?
Absolutely. Like, I don't think you ever stop developing. Mm-hmm. I think I was at a pro club last week, and they're working on the same things that I've worked on with 10-year-olds.
Right.
It's you have to just keep refining, and those details don't go away. Mm-hmm. All right, you have to continuously do it. Listen to the coach yell at them, receive on the back foot, and I'm like, I know about that. I know about that. But it's interesting to see when you're at those pro clubs and you're at, a U10 training session, you're supposed to hear the same things.
Right.
Because they're supposed to be treated the same way.
Wow.
And I think a part of development is, they're 10, they're just supposed to have fun. Or, they're 6, they're supposed to have fun. Or they're 16, they're supposed to have fun. Mm-hmm. Well, if they want to go where they're saying they want to, we can have fun. But developing is fun. Winning is fun in the right way.
Right. So totally. I love it. I love it. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what other tips would you give to parents who are trying to help their daughters go further? Let's say if they're in an environment, like we've kind of talked about our journey and, with you and how you helped us kind of get started. And obviously we have a long way to go. And I'm very forthcoming on the program. And I say, listen, I'm not a professional. I'm a parent. I'm navigating this as best I can, and we're learning as we go. And we don't know where it's going to go, but we know that we're taking this journey, and we're trying to put our child in a position to be the best she can be, whatever that looks like, right? And I always use this word, like I was I was saying before in an episode, and I was telling them, my kids get sick of hearing it, and I always talk about being intentional, right? Yeah. You have to be intentional about your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, right? Absolutely. So if you have, parents who are out there who are hearing what you're saying, and they're feeling like, my daughter says, they want to go further. They love the sport. I can see that passion in them. I feel like they really have something, or at least want to see where this takes them. I want to give them a shot, right? What are some of the things that you would recommend sort of right out of the gate just in getting started with this process, you think?
I guess my first question would always be, if somebody says that, is, do you watch the game?
Okay.
And I don't mean college, or do you watch professional games every weekend? Because they're on every weekend.
Right.
Are you trying to get better by studying the game? And then the next question, I guess would be is, are you sure that you're all in?
Right.
Because all in is a lot. It really is. And it's looking at yourself, but also looking at your kid and making sure that you're not over pushing them, or it's not your dream.
Right.
It's their dream, and then it becomes y'all's dream.
Right.
So I feel like you have to have real conversations with yourself and with your family and whoever that athlete is. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, I think even for me, starting off as a coach, I was afraid to reach out to big coaches. Now I'll email anybody like, hey, what are you doing this session? What are you doing the day before a game? What are you doing the day after the game? Match day -4, like, what are you doing? Right. Because like we said, you have to learn.
Right.
So I think that the challenging thing is making sure that you understanding you're never asking enough.
Right.
And I think a lot of people only ask the people that they're comfortable with,
right,
or who's in their circle. And most of those people within your circle that you're comfortable with have the same thought process as you.
Right.
So it's okay to reach out to people that you've never met and have those conversations. Let them judge your
Right.
what you're doing.
Right.
Take them to those places. There's a lot of people that are doing things now, and they're doing it great. They'll invite you in
Right.
if you ask.
Right.
So don't be afraid to let your game be judged.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't want to hold a mirror up to their game or their kid's game, and I think that's the downfall.
Yeah, yeah, and I totally agree with that. Because it's it's tough, right? It's tough putting yourself out there. It's tough putting your kid out there, right? And that was also some of that was also what made us want to do Project Further, right? Because even though we're very much in this journey and really just the beginning stages and still learning a lot as we go and making a lot of mistakes as well, there are times when we'll be someplace with London. And parents will ask, well, how did you find out about this guest play position or opportunity, or how'd you do this, right? But there are people who may not want to ask.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're uncomfortable. So we said, well, let's create a platform where people can just go and get the information, right? And they can hear you say this, and they're like, oh, well, he knows what he's talking about. Well, maybe I should ask,
Yeah.
And with maybe getting the information out there in a way that isn't threatening, can
Yeah.
hopefully open up these conversations in a community
Absolutely.
where everybody is pulling in the same direction to try to elevate the game with these girls and get them to where they need to be and get them what they deserve in terms of opportunities.
I think that's going to be huge. The more knowledge you know, the better it is.
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Lo, I think this was an amazing episode. So
Great
amazing.
episode.
Oh my gosh, like this is just so great. I just can't thank you enough for coming and visiting with us. We're definitely going to have you back, anytime, any pearls of wisdom that you want to drop on us, we'd be happy to have those, And like I said, thank you for being such an amazing human being, amazing person, amazing athlete, and such an advocate for these kids who are trying to experience a beautiful game at the very, very highest level.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate you for having me on.
of course.
But first, I appreciate who you are and what you're doing. I
thank
think
you.
I
Thank
always tell you
you.
when we talk,
Yeah.
hey, it starts with you and going out and finding more information and being unafraid and putting London in these situations to be successful. So big pat on the back
Thank
to
you.
yourself.
Thank you. It means a lot. It means a lot coming from you, for sure. Well, folks, like I said, another beautiful episode. We're so glad that you tuned in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. And as always, keep striving, keep pushing, always further.